What is going on, brothers? This is David Lyon, founder of Evolving Man. So this video is going to be a bit of a rant against astrology and human design and your horoscope and any kind of modality that is trying to explain to you who you are and why you behave the way you do and what partner you should date and so on and so forth. Now, short disclaimer before I go any further. I haven't studied any of these modalities in depth. I imagine that if you do, you might get a really nuanced understanding of what they're able to explain and what they don't. What I'm ranting against is the way that I'm seeing these things used in quite a superficial way in our Western culture and in the circles that I am living in, so the communities that I'm part of. And I guess to understand where I'm coming from, I studied psychology for 3 years, even though I don't have a degree, and I am very, very interested in how the human mind works. And so there's a couple of things that I think are important to understand in how we relate to these things. Because, for example, the human mind is made to recognize patterns. That's a quality that evolved over thousands and millions of years that has been incredibly useful because recognizing patterns means you can start understanding, oh, these animals are coming to this place in the forest every day, oh, and so on and so forth, right? So recognizing patterns is what helped us advance as a human species. Like, we're seeing things that repeat themselves, and so we can start predicting things. Now, there's a couple of issues with that. One is sometimes we see patterns where there are no patterns because our mind is so obsessed with looking for patterns. And the other thing is, once we've locked into a certain pattern, like, oh, this is how things are, it takes a lot of energy to change the pattern that we're seeing. And so especially the second piece in this example is kind of an issue, because you read something about yourself, and these horoscopes are always kept kind of in a general tone. Like, they're never super specific, and that's for a reason, because when you keep them kind of vague, it's very easy for you to see yourself in them. It's like, oh yes, totally, I am kind of adventurous, and I am a lover of life, and I do sometimes doubt myself, right? Like, it's written in a way that most people can probably see themselves in it. Now, once you see yourself in it, that's the pattern that you're seeing about yourself. And now what your mind will start doing is it will select, in your experience, it will select the information that will confirm this pattern, and it will kind of hide or put into the background the kind of information that is opposed to this. Because you might be an adventurous person, but you might also be a really scared person, and you might really just love spending time at home, and maybe you often don't feel like traveling at all. And so if we don't understand that with our perception we are very much creating our reality, then we might read a horoscope and we might think, oh my God, this explains everything about my life. Whereas in fact, really what happens is your mind becomes primed, that's a psychological term, your mind becomes primed to focus on certain things, in this example, that are in alignment with whatever you read about yourself, and then not look at things that are not in alignment with these things, okay? So basically, you create a perception, or this shapes your perception so that you fit into this. Now, again, this does not mean there's absolutely no truth about the horoscope, no truth about your human design, but your mind is taking an active effort for you to confirm whatever you just read, right? So for me, that also means I need to actively question, well, is that actually true? Could the opposite also be true? Which brings me to the last point that I want to bring in, which is I often see people use these modalities in a kind of deterministic way, like, oh, that's just who I am. Well, you know, I'm a Capricorn, and Capricorns are like this. And that really pisses me off, because I think we have so much possibility to change. And one of the things that I'm most passionate about is seeing life as this huge playing field and just seeing how much power we have in changing our perception, changing our behavior, changing how we relate to ourselves, changing how we relate to society, changing how we relate to this freaking camera. Like, there's so many choices that we have in each moment, and I see it very much as like a gradual process to become aware of how much choice I actually have. And just to give you like a tiny example, I often feel powerless, and I think most people do in many moments. But even that is a choice that I at some point took that helped me cope with the situation. And so now very often my path is to kind of look at, well, what is it that I'm doing when I feel powerless, to start seeing, well, there's a choice in there as well. And so there's a power as well in choosing to be powerless. And so when people talk to me about, well, I read this about myself and that means this and that, what comes up for me is like, you know that you have a choice right now whether you want to believe in this or not. And so may this be the main message of this video, is like, use all these modalities, and if they support you and if they help you understand something about yourself and have compassion and create more space and feel more empowered to actually live that life that you want, then great, use them. But the moment that they feel kind of constricting and they feel like now you have to start fitting into whatever you read about who you're supposed to be, then just drop them. Really, just drop them in this moment and see that no modality will ever be able to describe the complexity of who you are. Like, how do you think some kind of astrological sign is able to take in all of your experiences up until now? And you know, when I have a choice between a kind of deterministic view of like everything is predetermined and it just unfolds the way it does, or we have free will, which doesn't mean that everything is happening randomly. Of course, there are rules and laws that are governing this world and this universe, but within that, I have so much choice. Then I definitely want to go for the second one, because it empowers me to look around and to also acknowledge my own responsibility for my own life. And so I see people giving away their responsibility to their horoscopes and to what their mother said about who they are. And in all these ways, we're giving our authority away to some kind of external thing. And so one thing that I'm seeing how we're doing this, and I'm not excluding myself, I'm just not doing that with horoscopes, but probably with people I look up to, probably with my parents, and so on and so forth, right? So we're doing that all the time, but may this be a wake-up call. Like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to believe anything that you read about yourself in human design or horoscopes, or I don't even know how all these things are called, all right? So if you resonate with this message, please share it. Maybe share it with someone who sometimes gets lost in all these things. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. If you disagree, would love to hear some other thoughts on this. And as always with Evolving Man, you're seen, you're loved, you're appreciated. Keep evolving, and I'll talk to you very soon. Peace.